I was like talking about gospel chops because we're both drummers. I was like, yeah, it's like I just watched this drum fill, this gospel chops, and I just showed him, I think. And he was like, dude, that's crazy. And he tried to do something like that. And I was like, we should try to like fit that in a song. That would be hilarious. He's like, yeah, gospel chop death metal.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at ghostcultmag.com, and I am back with another interview. And we welcome in an old friend today, Trey from Creeping Death. How are you doing, man?
Doing well. How are you, man?
I am so stoked to see you and talk to you. It's been a minute. A lot has happened since we got together formally. I've, like I said, passed you a few times at shows, seen you at a festival, always caught the band live when I can. But yeah, it's been a minute since we chatted. And so we're on the eve, basically, of the new album, Boundless Domain. And I'm coming out on Monarch Heavy June 16th. Super stoked. Appreciate everybody involved for bringing us together once again. You guys have been so
Like,
busy, tours, festivals, everything. I just saw you guys crush it on tour with Carcass. How's it been going?
awesome. I mean, we've been pretty lucky with the opportunities that we've been that have been put forth, for us. So we're just trying to do all the coolest shit we can possibly do. Like we're just, picking and choosing all the. And we're just lucky enough that we like keep having these like cool opportunities that we could do. We pretty much have tours pretty much planned all the way until winter of next year. So and they're all bangers. They're all awesome. And there's also some one-offs and some festival stuff that still hasn't been announced that we're doing later this year as well. So yeah, we have the unique opportunity to be able to play to a lot of different diverse crowds like pretty often. So yeah, it's pretty.
Right on. Let's talk about this for a second because I think this is a good lesson for younger bands, right? You guys have done some headline tours and, like you mentioned, some one offs coming up. But I feel like predominantly since you guys arrived on the scene, you have mostly done opening gigs for bigger bands. And I think it's been a great way to, share exposure and get known and discovered. But also, like, I think in this weird era we're in the industry where it's very precarious, a lot of bands still want to just, I want to do a headline tour, right? There's something about, or I want to put out a full length instead of an EP. So it's these old school paradigms of the music business we need to break. Even in metal, we need to break these things. So talk for a second about, it's a decision to not overdo headline tours and just keep doing openers. Talk about that for a second if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just about being like sort of like self-aware with where you're at as a band and where you want to go as a band, like just being honest about that first. Because like, maybe like that is like fine for people. Like, maybe that's like, that's the kind of route they want to go and they don't want to, do some of those opening tours and whatnot. And that's completely cool. You just got to know what to expect, just like tempering your expectations with that, you know what I mean? And then on the flip side, it's like you don't also tour with every like legacy act. Sometimes it's like you have to think about the kind of people that would be at that show, the kind of fans that are at that show. It's like, would this be like, would this gel? Like, would you think we could pull, pull some fans from here? And if you don't think you can, if it's a little too out there, maybe rein it back and do something else. So it's all about just like, kind of knowing where you're at like as a band and like knowing what your own personal goals as a band are and then like going from there.
Right on. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think whenever we have an opportunity to educate some younger bands on the do's and don'ts by a band that's, clearly experiencing some growth, we want to help. Uh, and again,
Yeah.
self-editing and self-awareness low on the totem pole for metalheads and musicians. Sorry, guys, just sharing what I know from many years of being one. It takes one to know one, and I am one and have been both. So just sharing. But let's talk just for a second about Boundless Domain and like when did you guys start writing it? I know you've put a full length and a few EPs and some killer singles, but like, obviously you knew a new record was, on the horizon and you started putting material together. What's that genesis like from the first jam? Here's a brand new song, and then how much time later do we have a completed album?
Yeah, so we actually started writing pretty much all of the new music that we've pretty much just released right at the onset of the pandemic. We were in the middle of a tour and we were on the touring cycle for our first album and we had planned to like basically tour for a year or two on that. and obviously that didn't happen. So, everything shut down, and the only thing we really could do for fun was like jam with each other because we had our own private jam space. So it was pretty much like the only thing for the first like, couple of months. And then after that, once we all started to work more, we just started to make our jamming more consistent, and like, make sure we get together once a week, couple times a week to write new stuff. And yeah, so basically all the new music was written like starting then. There's actually songs that were newer that we ended up putting on the EP, The Edge of Existence, than some of the old songs that we had written like when we had started at the beginning of the pandemic that eventually became some of the songs on the LP. So we basically just like had maybe 6 or 7 songs, and we decided to, put out an EP, re-record like 3 songs, put out 3 new songs that we had, to just kind of like, have something out, just not make sure we didn't really like make sure we had something. We didn't want a 4 or 5 year gap between releases because, if we had waited for an LP, we didn't want to tour off of not having an LP. But we didn't mind like not touring on off of an EP. We just kind of wanted to have something out there. So but we were lucky. By the time it came out, we did a tour with Exhumed right after that. So, but yeah, like all those songs were sort of written concurrently, and as time went on, the songs that were older, since we had more time to sit with them, we added more layers, and we were able to like think about it a little more, stuff like that. Just kind of things that we haven't had the opportunity to have writing together the last few years. So it was cool. We could, sit and actually like think and like add stuff. And then you add Adam D to the picture, and it's like we send him the tracks and he sends us notes back, and like he adds his notes and layers, and it's like, oh, you should play this way and restructure this, and let's add the harmony this way. And then you get into the studio and then you add on more, even more, and then you just build like that. And that's kind of how it, all kind of came to what's the final end product. You know what I mean?
Right on. And Adam D is maybe even still kind of an underrated producer, but he's produced some of the best records ever, uh, including a couple of banger a million sellers. So not a bad guy to have in your corner, coaching you up and working with you. He's seen and done it all, right? Plus he's
Absolutely,
funny. He's
absolutely.
funny as hell.
Oh, funny, dude! Absolutely, one of the funniest dudes I've ever met. Just completely every day was just having us like dying laughing.
Amazing. I definitely think it's a much more focused record. Obviously, again, you have your full whole life to make your first releases, as they say, and then you have a little more time. Clearly, you had more time than you expected, but this is a very focused record. I want to shout out Reese, incredible performance on this record, dude. Like unbelievable next level shit. And I hope
Oh yeah.
people recognize it because he really stepped up phenomenally. But let's do a quick breeze through the album track listing and anything you want to share, any impressions or anything that can help illuminate the listeners ahead of getting this record in their fiending ears. I would love to have you share. So,
Okay.
yeah, I did not rehearse that sentence. But anyway, the title track is the first track on Boundless Domain.
Yeah. So that track, that opening riff, like I don't know, when we kind of started writing that song, we never like plan on like, oh, when we start writing, it's like, oh, this song's gonna be this number on the album. We just kind of like do it and just place it how it goes, how we feel like it flows like later. But when we like started writing that one, we're like, oh, like this just like feels kind of like an opener. And yeah, that's, one of my favorite riffs that I've personally ever written, which is like the last riff in the song. I thought that was a really, really, really cool riff. It was one of the, as me and AJ call it, the one of the shroom riffs. Is like, we would just like hang out and like microdose on shrooms and just like play guitar. And like that's one of the ones that's like I kind of based off of something I came up with like then. And then yeah, and then that song is lyrically is pretty sure that one's about Riley. Reese wrote that one. That was a pretty personal song for Reese. So yeah, it's one of my favorite. I always people always ask like what's your favorite one? What's your favorite song on the album? It's either that one or the last one. So yeah, I like that track a lot.
Right on. And a callback to our very first interview together where we talked a lot about the influence of Power Trip, and rest in power to Riley. Still brutal. I know you guys were close in geography. And but he was incredible and a much missed dude. The second track was the killer single, Intestinal Rap.
Yeah, that one was like a riff sort of. It started as like AJ kind of he plays like really fast, like and he likes a lot of like not techie, but like he just plays like a lot of his fingers are moving in a lot of the riffs he has. So like we started off with like um the way it's played in the beginning with the blast beats, like that's kind of how he presented the riff to us at first, and we're like, yo, that's crazy, like that's sick. And then like I just kind of decided to like, yo, let's like break it up so it's like a little bit more simple and like palatable, but like we play it like this at least one time so it's like familiar to the audience, I guess. So we basically like split the riff in half, simplified it, and then like uh, we'll cut it to halftime, and then we'll pick it up like every once in a while. And we just kind of decided which order to like sort of do the halftime parts where it's just like the headbangy, and then like the faster parts where it's like kind of more swingy. Like they're just kind of back and forth like that. And then yeah, then the rest of the song, like AJ sort of came up with this sort of thrashy part in the middle with with the solo over it, and then the last part is just like I came up with just like a straight ignorant fight riff. We were just like kind of like trying to be funny, I guess. It's just like how like ridiculous can we like be without being like too over the top. And I was just like, what about this riff? And we were like, yeah, we could use that. So it was just like kind of like that. We were just wanted a super heavy like dying fetus kind of suffocation like slam kind of vibe at the end, just for fun, just for the jams. And then like having Corpse Grinder on that song came about because our we're like on the sort of the same management group, same as like Adam D and everything. So our manager was like, hey, would you guys be interested on having like a Corpse Grinder feature on any one of the songs? And we were like, absolutely. And all of us pretty much unanimously agreed that track was should be the one because it's, I mean, pretty obvious. Like lyrically, it's the most brutal song. So I think it was pretty easy from the jump, and so it came together pretty quick, actually.
Right on. And George does not do a lot of features, as many as he used to. So it's cool to have him on there.
Yeah.
The third track, I hope I say this correctly, is Vitrified Earth.
Yes. Yes. That's another Reese imagination track, or writing about basically launching nukes and destroying the world and the consequences and stuff like that. But yeah, the starting off, that riff is like got this like kind of spacey part, and I have this like Wazucraft Dimension C course pedal, and it's kind of an expensive pedal, and when I bought it, because I used it for one part in the studio on Edge of Existence, so I bought it to be able to play that part. But I was like, well, now that I have this expensive pedal, I'm gonna make sure I fucking use it as tastefully and as often as I can, so I get my money's worth. I'm not just gonna let it sit here on my board and do nothing. So, I thought it would be cool to have a little spacey part start like that, and then it kind of comes into the heavier sits back in like that heavier sort of groove, and that was like we joked, we were like, yeah, that's like the crowbar riff. We kept calling that part the crowbar riff. So yeah, we just kind of like wanted a more kind of middle tempo headbangy sort of vibe. The middle part AJ sort of came up with kind of like nice, like not, it's like a smooth but not too choppy like variation of like a kind of a riff, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of like stompy. I like it a lot. And then it goes into what we call the New York hardcore part with the bass. And then yeah, we just kind of jam out, and then AJ goes into the solo, and back into the slam, finishing it off with the heavy part, and then a little bit of a surprise at the end with the little beat switch. So yeah, that song's fun. That was one of the songs we wrote before some of the songs that were on Edge of Existence. Like, so that's what I was talking about. Like, so yeah, that was like one of the first two or three songs that we wrote at the onset of the pandemic. So yeah.
Great. The Parthian shot is the fourth track.
Yeah, that's a Reese likes to write a lot about, well, like not write about, but like take influence from like Persian like history, because Reese is like half Persian, half Iranian, and so it's like a lot of the different imagery for the torture devices, and talking about different ways of like you know in the songs of hurting people. Basically, a lot of them are just torture, things from the Persian Empire, like back in the day. It's just like stuff that Reese's heard about, and so basically, it's this technique of basically these writers would retreat. They would write into battle, and then they would retreat, thinking, and then the other team with the other fighters would think they're winning, and then follow them when they were retreating. Then they would turn around as they were on horseback and shoot arrows at the people chasing them behind them, and basically like wipe out all of them like as a surprise. So that's kind of like what that is, sort of. So I think in that context, Reese is sort of saying that shot is like sort of conquering something or whatever. I don't know. I don't pay attention to the lyrics personally, but yeah, that's sort of where the name comes from. And that song was definitely the one that Adam helped structure the most. When we sent him the demos, he was like, "Yeah, this is like a mess. Let's like try to restructure this a little bit more." So, we eventually got it to a good structure and sort of changed things up. And yeah, the that's like the pretty. We always like to have a pretty fast song, and I wanted that song to be kind of like noodly. So, kind of has this like weird sort of like that's see it in that the fast part in that one is like another sort of like mushroom riff, where I was like, we were writing on that stuff, and it was just like I wanted it to be like at the gates, but like sort of like weirder kind of like. So that's kind of like the vibe. But it's like a sort of like a 6/8, but it's also like a circle pit that so um yeah, that's kind of like how that came about, and it was basically just all the riffs were basically branched off of that one until the end, until the slam part at the end. So yeah, that's kind of like how that song came
We could
about.
all stand to have more weird at the gates parts in our lives.
Yeah,
And they've been
yeah,
doing some weird shit the last couple of years, and I'm all for it. Let's keep it up.
hell yeah.
Continuing on, I don't know if I should be concerned or not, but creators turned into prey is the next song. I might be in trouble.
That one I think Reese wrote about, kind of like I think I don't know if they did it on purpose, but it kind of like ties into the whole AI thing that's going on, where it's just like, you know, basically they create in the story, I guess they created this like race of like AI robots to like sort of do the bidding, and then they basically became like sentient, and they said, wait a minute, we're actually way stronger than all these people bossing us around. Let's fuck them up. So I think it's sort of like, kind of ties in this stuff that's going on right now, like that. Like I said, I have no idea if Reese planned on doing that on purpose, but it's like looking pretty topical, which is kind of funny. As far as like the riffs go, we that was fun. That one, that was like the working title was obituary type beat, because of like the opening riff. It's like real like open like headbangy like real Florida like death metal style, and then yeah, the rest of it, like that was a very big Texas like hardcore influence song. Definitely Iron Age, especially with like the middle part in the end, the spacey part, kind of like definitely influenced by the Fleeting Eye, like Iron Age, that album, like big time. So yeah, that's kind of how like that song was like came together.
Right on. The next two are my personal favorites on the record. So Cursed is the first of those two.
Nice. Yeah, that one, that was basically we always like try to have like one just like straight mosh songs just for like our hardcore friends. Like it's kind of like it's like all right, like let's make the song more of like kind of like a hardcore song, I guess. So that was very much influenced by Mammoth Grinder, like Iron Age too, like sort of the rhythms and stuff like that. So yeah, that was like we were just like, yeah, we want this super simple song, straightforward, just so people can, mosh for like 2.5 minutes. And yeah, so
Right on. And then Remnants of the Old Gods is the next one.
that one was actually the last song that we wrote before we went into the studio. me and Lincoln got together like maybe 2 weeks or something like that before we went to San Diego to record. Um, and we were like, all right, we probably need like one more song to just be sure like we have like enough to record. Like if we want to take one out, we can. And so we basically, me and him went by ourselves and wrote that song like one night. Uh, and once we sent the notes, because since it was the newest song, we expected Adam to be like to change up the most about that song. And that was actually one of the songs where he had like no notes on. He was like, "This one's good. Like it's fine. I like it the way it is." We were like, me and Lincoln were like, well, "What?" So like basically once we got to the studio, all he did was add the layers to it, the harmonies and like the leads. Like he had the idea for adding that lead on that song because there wasn't had that before. So he was like, "You guys should have like some like sort of eerie lead, kind of like something like this." And I forget what band he played. He played something, and then we kind of came up with something on the spot there, and yeah, it was came together sick, and that song it has my favorite drum moment is on that song. Like when we were writing that song, um it was a joke. Like I forget how the joke started, but I was just like making I was like talking about gospel chops because we're both drummers. So we stopped and took a break and we were probably just talking about drums. I was like, yeah, it's like I just watched this drum fill, this gospel chops, and I just showed him, I think. And he was like, dude, that's crazy. And he tried to do something like that. And I was like, we should try to like fit that in a song. That would be hilarious. He's like, yeah, gospel chop death metal. And then we were like, we should try it. And then I just like came up with this like kind of stupid like riff just as a joke, just like a chun 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 chun. And then he like did that sort of beat. And I looked at him and we looked at each other and we were like, oh shit, like that's crazy. And he just kept like doing it over and over until he sort of like got it clean enough. And then I was like, okay, maybe I should actually think of like a serious riff to like do over this. So then I did that, and that's kind of like how that whole part basically spawned. And it was just like, yeah, it was kind of cool. It was just kind of funny and organic. And we were just kind of like, oh, look at this drum video. This would be funny. And then he was just like, because he does that in practice all the time, where he'll just do like a ridiculous drum fill just as a joke. It's just like typical drummer humor. You know what I mean? Like everyone would be like, dude, that was sick. But we're just like laughing, like, yo, if we did something like this, like, and it's just like, obviously, it's not like tasteful. You can't put it in something, but to us, it's fucking funny. And we actually decided let's actually put something like that in something. We kind of did.
Word, there you go. Looming is the next to last track.
Yeah, that one, that was like, that one's definitely a weird sort of shroomy track again too. It's like, it's just kind of like swings in this weird way, and then it comes to this like what we call the suffocation type beat, where it's just like slam, like comes with the real hard slam, and it's got a real cool like sort of middle part to break it up. But yeah, that song is definitely one of the weirder ones I feel like on the album. But it's fun. I like it a lot. It's a nice like little swingy. I like a little like waltz vibe. Pretty cool.
Right on. And the final track and another single is The Common Breed.
Yeah, this was my like I said, like either the first one or this one is my favorite track. Definitely, this was the song that had the most. Me and AJ wrote under the most influence of like psychedelics for sure. The middle part definitely like we were kind of stumped on the middle part and we didn't know what to do. And then we just kind of like did that one day and kind of came up with that part together. And then yeah, it like kind of started as like a simple part and then we just kept building it, making it weirder and weirder with more guitar effects and stuff like that. And then AJ had the last riff at the end, the spider riff. He calls it the spider riff. Like we call it this, that's what we always call it. And he's like, yeah, this was a riff that he actually used as a warm up. Like he would just do it as a warm up for like years. Like never put it in any one of his bands. And then like his other band, they were jamming. And he's like, oh, you should use that. Like we should try to use that. And they were never able to like fit it into a song basically. So he kind of just always had that in the band. And so he would play it all the time, like as a joke, like just like as fast as humanly possible. And we were like, let's like slow it down, like slow that a little bit down. And he plays fast, like he likes to play really fast anyway. So to get him to like slow it down was like kind of funny because he had to like really think about it because I could tell it was like muscle memory playing it super fast. So we got to slow him down and we were like, you should play the Slayer beat over it, Lincoln. And so we did that and it's like for this cool like little groovy part. And yeah, that's like one of my favorite riffs I think for at all for this band. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Awesome stuff. Thanks so much for sharing all that. I'm so pumped for people to hear this record.
Yeah.
I have been jamming it out endlessly. Just for a last couple of things, obviously, the band has, touring, as you mentioned, booked the rest of the year. Any, do you brace yourself for, like online reviews and journalists? Not everybody's going to love your stuff. And I've had a differing conversations with some bands recently about like how they feel about negative reviews. We can't control what reviews and what are said about us, same as us as a website, but just like how do you care, do you not care, do you read them all, how do you approach the new album release now?
Oh, dude, I don't pay any attention. I'm so bad about that. Like one, like my social media like kind of use has gone down dramatically over the last couple of years, and not on some like oh high and mighty like oh like, I don't use social media. It's like bad for your brain, all this shit. It's like no, I just like am doing other shit. Like I'm helping out at home. Like my grandma is like getting older and like she's getting around a little bit less, so I'm helping out with that. Uh, my mom recently tore her meniscus, so helping out with that, them at home. Like my dad, he can't do everything, so just doing stuff like that. So I'm basically like when I'm not on tour, I'm just like focused at like just working and then making sure my bills are paid and helping out like the fam when I can. So um, you know, just doing that, like I don't really have time really to look at all of it. I'm always also doing stuff for, like this, like just like interviews and stuff, and I'm having to do stuff like that, and so I'm doing stuff with other people, and that's kind of the stuff that I'm looking at. I'm not really like looking at or seeking out the other stuff, and it's I mean, if I had more time, I guess I could, but I really just don't have the time. Uh, but anyone that listens to it, takes the time to check it out at all, even if it's a bad review, I appreciate them, checking it out. It still helps in some way, shape, or form. It's like any,
That is true. There's no such thing as bad press, everybody. And
yeah,
try not to
even
fight
if
back
some,
with, yeah, don't fight back with idiot fans and even journalists. Don't get into, don't engage. Just let it be. Last thing, because you mentioned it, if you wanted to promote any of your side projects, if there's any news to share on those fronts, I know the whole band is always doing other things.
yeah, I can shout kind of all the homies side projects. Lincoln plays drums in a band called Fugitive. They are fucking amazing. It's got Blake from Power Trip. He plays guitar. They got Seth from Scourge. He does vocals, and he sounds so insane. It's like crazy, and yeah, the whole band rocks. Got some other legendary Texas hardcore homies in the band. So yeah, they're sick. Very cool. And then Reese and AJ actually have a band that's like not a heavy band. They're called Sacred Attention, and they're sort of this like Sebado, Dinosaur Jr. sort of worship kind of band, kind of like indie rock vibes, but like sort of big fuzzy guitars. It's really cool, like very awesome band. I just watched their first show actually the other day, and they were awesome. So yeah, they kick ass at that. And then I play drums in a hardcore band called Deep Cover actually, and we released two new songs the other day. I we have funny stories like we released our demo, and our demo sounds like shit because when I recorded drums, I went on vacation, so I wasn't there for any of the process, and they basically just got too into making it sound like they wanted to have a specific sound, and I'm more on the camp of like making it sound so like it's like listenable for more people. And I finally the two songs we recorded plus like the EP that we have that's gonna come out later this year. Like now it's like up to like my personal standards. So like now I'm like more about like plugging my own band and like showing people that. So yeah, we got two new songs up on Spotify, and you can check that out. And if you want to check out the terrible sounding demo, I guess you can if that's your prerogative. But I passed.
I like the blatant honesty, and I deeply hope that Deep Cover is named for the Larry Fishburne movie. I hope so, as a nerd. huge nerd.
Yeah, you'll.
And for sure.
That's what I always tell people.
Yeah,
I joined the band later, but I tell people that anyway.
even
I
if it's
swear.
not, tell them anyway. They get excited
Yeah.
about it. Wow, wow, West. Anyway, Trey, a great musician and guy, but also a good son and grandson. Dude, amazing talking to you. Thanks for hanging out with Ghost
Thank you.
Cult and congrats on Boundless Domain. I'm super proud of you guys. Great job. And I'll see you out in another
Thank
show
you.
soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, bro.